Now this might be a mistake that I'm calling you this late, but these dreams I have of you ain't real enough. Started bringing up the past, how the things you love don't last, even though this isn't fair for both of us. Ooh, maybe I'm just a fool. I still belong with you anywhere you are. Ooh, these my fields that I walk through. Ooh, what I risk to be close to you. Ooh, these my fields keeping me from you. Ooh, what I risk to be close to you, close to you. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I didn't notice what I've lost until all the lights were off, and not knowing what you're up to tortured me. Now this might be a mistake, we're broken in so many ways, but I'll piece us back together slowly. Ooh, maybe I'm just a fool. I still belong with you anywhere you are. Ooh, these my fields that I walk through. Ooh, what I risk to be close to you. Ooh, these my fields keeping me from you. Ooh, what I risk to be close to you, close to you. Ooh, 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 close to you. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Now this might be a mistake that I'm calling you this late, but these dreams I have of you ain't real enough.
You're watching Out of the Loop, Season 5.
True stories from Tyler and East Texas.
I'm gonna just speak from the ticker.
Great.
So nervous.
When I've gone to a few different podiatrists and they have told me that they have never seen anybody with feet as flat as mine.
And they were using English that I could not understand. They were using slang, for example, what's up? I was keep looking at, there's nothing out there. It is a whole new show.
Starring me.
Starring me.
Starring me.
And one day he said, I miss putting my head on my mom's lap and she would run her fingers through my hair.
So it was the year 2000, and walking down the breezeway of Sabine Middle School as a 6th grader was an everyday activity. On this particular day, a memory was born as one of my peers walks up next to me and starts to make these weird, wide, staggered, elongated steps. I blow it off and worry about the only thing that was concerning to me, which was the drums. I made my way to the band hall, which was my home away from home, at least while I was at school. I swing the doors open, rush in and grab my assigned snare drum and make my way to bus number 10. As I get settled in, I think, why was he walking like that? Something about it sticks to me like sticker burrs sticking to everything in the summer in Texas. 5 years later, I'm a student at Pine Tree High School in Longview, Texas. And one of my classmates proceeds to make those same wide, staggered, elongated steps. I knew at that point that I was being made fun of by both of those little students, little punks. That's what I really wanted to say.
So when you moved to Pine Tree, you kept playing bass drums?
No, I actually transitioned into playing snare drum, And then when I transitioned into playing snare drum, I don't know what happened. They just didn't want me to, so I ended up playing cymbals. And when I ended up playing cymbals, I was like, oh, okay, because nobody wanted to play cymbals. Who in the heck wants to play cymbals when you could play snare drum instead, or even bass drum? Because when you moved to Pine Tree, I moved from a 3-person section, percussion section, to an actual drum line of like 20 people. That may be an exaggeration, it may be like 12. But man, I was frustrated, so I took my cymbals home every single day for like 2 weeks and sat in my backyard and learned how to twirl and spin cymbals. I learned how to twirl them and spin them in between my legs and flip them in the air and do things while they're in the air, and then get up and catch them and then go back into my proverbial Harlem Shake that I did every single pep rally.
No way.
Yeah, it was great. It was so cool. The first time I ever got out in the audience and did the Harlem Shake and then did everything that I wanted to do, they were like, Casey, come back, come back. And everybody else was like, oh my God, what's he about to do? And then I just did my thing. And then the principal was like, yo, Casey, that was a good job. And then the assistant principal was like, yo, that was awesome. And then counselors were like, yeah, that was really cool. And then the students were like, yay, dude. And then every single pep rally, it was an expected thing. It was like, what's Casey gonna do? The only thing that was frustrating me was the fact that I had done numerous things to try to overcome my flat feet and develop the ability to do the things that people without flat feet could do normally. I had tried countless things, from rolling hard cylindrical things underneath my feet to try to form arches that simply were not there, to doing toe extensions to try to strengthen my feet and my ankles, to purchasing those basketball shoes with the arches in them, but simply 2 weeks later, my feet just flattened them out. My mom had been some sort of a physical therapy coach, encouraging me to continue to do those things over time. Frustration wasn't because I was being made fun of or belittled, you see. It was simply because I had done those things countless of times, and every single time they were being pointed out, something about it just didn't feel right. When I was in 2nd grade in the year 1994, I had joined Cub Scouts, and I was so excited because I was going on my first camp out called Mom and Me. Halfway through the first day, I simply could not walk due to soreness in my feet. It made it so difficult that I could not even stand up at one point in time. My mom, who I'll call the Ultimate G, gave me the ultimate sense of strength at that point in time, where she lifted me up and carried me to the first aid station where I could get my ankles wrapped. But I still could not walk. My mom, the Ultimate G, picked me up again and carried me all the way to the campsite. As I rest a little bit, she asked me if I wanted to still continue with the activities, knowing good and well that she was gonna have me do it anyway, because she's always been a stickler for having me experience different things that would allow me to see and gain perspectives on life. So she, at that point in time, picked me up and carried me from that activity station to another activity station to the one over there in the far corner of the campsite of Whole Camp Pirtle, Boy Scout camp. And that was the example of just the ultimate strength that has been something that has been guiding me throughout my whole entire life. In the year 2015, I am a grown adult, and I traveled to see my mom in Humble, Texas. She says, hey, we're gonna go to this place, get in the car. We load up, make my way to this place called Good Feet. I walk in, and they sit me down, and they fit me for these custom orthotics, and I'm elated because I had tried several different Dr. Souls orthotics and every other one of the orthotics that you can get from Walgreens, CVS, or whatever, and none of those things seem to work. When I've gone to a few different podiatrists, and they have told me that they have never seen anybody with his feet as flat as mine.
No, okay.
Yeah, they're so flat that, because you know, like you have an arch, right, that sits like right here in your foot, right? So since you have that arch, it takes up residency. My feet do this, which means that my knee goes this way naturally, right? So if I walk with my feet like this, as opposed to like this, I walk kind of pigeon-toed, I think. I don't really know. I don't know what it looks like when I walk ever. I think I walk differently every single time I walk, because sometimes I try to work on it. Sometimes I get lazy and complacent and I don't want to work on it. It's crazy. I now serve as a licensed chemical dependency counselor in Lufkin, Texas for adolescents. I often get asked by them, Mr. Casey, why you walk like that? I simply say, that's just my pimp walk, man. It is what it is. Knowing that I have full intention to explain to them the story and the transparency of what that is allows me to relate to them in a place to where I give them guidelines and I give them lessons that are really awesome for me to teach and tell them. I need them to understand that through everything that exists, every single one of the hidden gifts, every single one of the gifts you can gain and you can understand a source of strength and a source of endurance. My name is Casey Muse Williams, and this is the story of my flat feet.
My name is Celia Flores. I am a first-generation Tylerite, born and raised here by immigrant parents. I am the oldest of 5 children, and I followed in my family's footsteps and have 5 blessings of my own with my high school sweetheart. I am a 3-year cancer survivor. In the spring of 2017, I start the day like I always do by getting into the shower. But this time was different. I felt a lump the size of a pea, and I immediately thought, it's nothing, just a swollen node. At that time, my father was in the hospital with heart complications. I had no time or energy to have any medical problems. I pushed it away and went on with my day. A couple of weeks later, I'm back in the shower. As the water is pouring down, I felt what was a pea size has now turned into the size of a grape. My heart begins to race, and suddenly the water feels way too hot. It's nothing, I thought, but this time I went ahead and made an appointment to get it checked out. On July 2017, I received a call from my primary care doctor. Hello, is this Celia Flores? I said, yes, this is she. I'm sorry to inform you, but the results came back positive for ductal cell carcinoma. Please come to our office so we can discuss treatment options. Yes, ma'am, I will. I was in complete state of shock. It felt like a dream. This is not possible. I'm a healthy person without any history of family cancer. She made a mistake, I thought in my head. I started chemotherapy in October, the Red Devil they called it. I lost all my hair by my second chemo treatment. I could barely eat. I was very nauseous even with anti-nausea medication. Everything I ate tasted like metal. I had to chew ice during my chemo infusions just to prevent mouth ulcers. I had black fingernails and toenails from the chemo infusion, and I had terrible bone pain. I felt like a 90-year-old lady. I had developed chemo-induced neuropathy, which caused numbness and tingling in my hands and feet, which felt like ant bites. Being scared and in pain was my new reality. My friend Alice gave me some great advice. She told me that every time that I go to see the doctor, to have a person of support there, because I will be in a state of shock that I would forget everything that the doctor has said, and that it was actually true. And she also told me to take these wristbands for nausea, to wear that during my chemo treatments because that would help with any nausea that I was feeling. She actually also went to my first chemo treatment with me, and she had some snacks for me, hand sanitizer, and she gave me like a little care pack as well. I had about 30 radiation treatments to the right side of my chest, and I had genetic testing that came back negative. The people in my life had different reactions to my cancer diagnosis. My husband was in shock. You can't have cancer. We have kids. I can't do this without you. My kids were very positive. Mom, you got this. Some of my friends had distanced themselves from me once they found out I had cancer because they couldn't deal with me being diagnosed with it, or they felt bad and didn't know what to say. I grew up in a Catholic household. I attend St. Peter Claver Church. During my diagnosis, I was angry with God. Why did I have to get cancer? I wasn't ready to die. My mind would race. I became depressed. I would be begging God for more time to be with my family. I asked God to make us strong, to make my family strong, and to have more faith in Him and unite us all. On November 4th, 2017, about 25 family members and friends from church attended my house in the living room. We were told for all of us to gather and hold hands as we pray for my healing. I could feel the warm tears from the people nearby me falling down on me as they were praying for my healing. We were all touched by the sweet words and started hugging each other. My family, my husband, sisters, brothers, nieces and nephews, and congregation members as well. My hope is to grow old with my husband like we always planned. I would like to see my grandkids. Well, since I've been in remission, I actually did get to attend my son's graduation. He's the first in our family to graduate high school, so that was a very emotional event for us. And my daughter's quinceañera, it was so beautiful. It was a dream come true for her. For anyone facing a serious illness, you have to have faith. You have to have hope, a strong support system. You have to keep on fighting and believing in your dreams. Thank you.
My life as an artist began before I ever picked up a paintbrush or even mixed colors. That would come much later. My grandmother made a point in saying that this baby has unusually large hands. I wonder what he would do with them. I am living out the prophecy of my grandmother. Coming from a big family, it was understood by my family members, my siblings and I, that it was important for us to pursue college. You see, I was able to witness all of my other siblings complete high school and begin working on their collegiate career. But my story didn't happen that way. In 2006, at the Martin Stadium, I can recall family members there ready and excited to celebrate this great and grand accomplishment. But you see, I was able to walk across the stage, but my heart was still heavy. My family members, they knew the truth. You see, I learned a month earlier that I didn't pass my Science Exit Level text test. I had to witness my mother plead with the school administrators as to anything that could be done for me to at least get another attempt or pass the test before graduation. But unfortunately, nothing could be done other than take the test the summer of the same year. After that rough transition, I didn't exactly see myself as a shining star. I even started to begin to struggle with the mentality of defeat, but thankfully, I passed that test. I began to take wisdom from my parents and starting at a college that was close to home, Panola College in Carthage, Texas. Little did I know, one trip to a museum would change my perspective on everything. I remember when I went to the DMA, the King Tut display. Just, you know, we see a lot of this stuff on the Discovery Channel, but actually seeing it in person is totally different, which, you know, correlates with when I create art and you see a picture, you have an expression, but when you see it face to face, you have a different expression, you know, a different connection, if you will. Back at Panola, with a new fire in me, I began creating work non-stop. Something that awoke in me at that museum was definitely blossoming and coming to life. I could not help but to create art. I began to create so much work that my art professor pitched the idea of having a solo exhibition. On April the 2nd of 2008, that idea became reality. I became the first student to have a solo exhibition of my own personal work. The library was just full of my art. But one person in particular that was special, or two people, I'll say two people, was Miss Karen O'Neill. She passed away a couple years ago, and she was so influential. She was my math teacher. She was so influential throughout the process of saying, you can do it, you don't have nothing to be afraid of. So that's one memory that I can really appreciate, because she kind of coached me through, along with my art professor at the time, Miss Ann Boland. And the turnout was extremely good, and it stayed up for a whole 2 weeks. In 2010, I married the love of my life, Miss Desiree Harris. A year afterwards, we were expecting our first child. 2 years after being married, in 2012 of May, I graduated with my Bachelor's of Fine Arts from the University of Texas at Tyler. During that same year of excitement, we were expecting our second child. Life was happening quick, and I had to really take care of my family. For 10 years, I worked in the environmental services field at what was then East Texas Medical Center. After 3 to 6 months of being a housekeeper and a floor tech, I was offered the role to become a supervisor. You see, even though I wasn't actively using art at my job, I was applying the respect and care my Panola College teacher showed me as I managed employees. Under the tutelage of Mr. Troy Horton, I became well-rounded with people and different personalities. This skill turned out to be exactly what I needed to launch my new career as an art teacher in 2017 in the Winona School District. My first experience being at the DMA was quite an eye-opener to all of the different types of art, all of the different types of cultures. So it allowed me to see that my style may be different from these cultures, but it can still fit in somewhere. And being an educator, it shows me that the kids can have different avenues to be able to create, and you don't have to create something that's just like somebody else. You can start something brand new and start a whole movement, you know, and be more contemporary versus being historic. So I think that was the most important part of me being at an exhibit when I was, you know, early in my, I guess, my little career. I think about the opportunity that I had, and I try to present that with the other students. And in most cases, the students can see that they don't have to be in a box. You can witness all of the other different types of art, and you can find your own way and be yourself. Most of all, be true to yourself. If we're not being true to how we create in our language, then we're not benefiting the people and the viewers that are looking at it. The variety of work I guess it's just so encouraging to me, because it lets me know that, you know, my work can fit in somewhere, you know, in that wide scape. Yeah. As I minister to students, I remember that my path was cloudy for a season. I remember the timing of the museum, or the kind words from a teacher or educator could be exactly the one thing that ignite the fire in a person or a student. To God be the glory for the things that He has done in my life. My name is Chauncey Williams, and this is my story.
Untroubled is to calm is to peace. You ask me my name, I say serenity. Gains keep me sane, and running is my lane. You can find me in a nook, reading a really good book. Now as you enjoy the rest of your day, I will sit back and destroy this yummy PB&J.
When I was 18, I said no to something and yes to another. I gave up my future in China. That decision had changed my life forever. I grew up in Beijing, China. I went to one of the best high schools there. I passed the college entrance examination, but I always wanted to come to the United States to study. I knew my life would be completely different there, a life of freedom, democracy, and opportunities. My mother was doing research in American University. She moved there and invited me to come to the state to visit her. In 1991, I arrived in the United States to complete my senior year in high school in Boston, Massachusetts. I went to one of the least desired public high school in Boston. It's called Charlestown. It's a poor Irish neighborhood. Many high school students there couldn't read or write. There, I witnessed gun violence, fight breaking out several times a day. There were police officers on every single floor of the school. There were frequent arrests and gangs. When students went to school, most did not bring books. They would sleep or do whatever they want. The lack of discipline was shocking. But other things was not so shocking. China prepared me to expect hardship. In China, people did not really have second chance. In the larger cities, only 3 out of 10 high school graduates can go to college. If you cannot go to college, your opportunity is very severely limited to a blue-collar job with a totally limited social income and social status. Competition was very severe. So I developed a habit of studying extremely hard. So I did not really anticipate to come into a land of paradise, anticipate hardship, barrier, and even racial discriminations. And then I heard a lot of students, they talk to each other, they're using this F word to speak to each other in a very pleasant fashion among friends. So I figured this must be a really useful word. So I asked them, so please tell me, what does this mean? Because I cannot really find it in my English-Chinese dictionary that I carry with me. So one of my friends I made, he said, you know, Feng, it's way too complicated for me to explain that to you. You should probably go ask the English teacher. So that's what I did. So in my English class, I went up to her desk. I said, Mrs. Taylor, please, would you explain that to me? What's the meaning of this F word? And she did. She actually explained that to me in front of the entire class in detail. I was so embarrassed. That day I learned a lesson I did not really anticipate. There are other things in Charlestown High School was also shocking to me. I was shocked by the freedom not to be respectful to others, the freedom not to learn, the freedom not to do well. But for those who are motivated, the opportunities were there. I realized very quickly that was the beauty of America, the freedom to choose. I was given the opportunity to study, to learn for free. I was given free lunch due to my family's low income. I had free books. I had teachers who were very kind and very excited about teaching me. Although Charlestown High School was the least supported high school in Boston, but compared with China, the quality of the basketball, gym, swimming pool, buses surpassed all the resources that I grew up with in China. Despite all the school issues, I flourished in this environment. The teachers supported me because I was willing to learn. They gave me books to read. They gave me personal advice. They talked to me in person. I got interested in track and field very quickly because I was the captain of the track and field team back in China. So I competed for the school. So as soon as I showed up, I realized there's also another track and field team in Charlestown. I kind of just volunteered myself. And I realized in our school, there's nobody can do javelin or disc, in which requires certain technical skills. So I kind of volunteered myself. I approached the coach, so I joined a track and field team. In fact, I won a silver medal for the school in a spring track and field competition held in public high school in Boston area. Nice. Yeah. Besides that, I involved in the swimming team, the computer programming team. I learned how to do computer programming in 6 months. And also I participate in the science fair projects. So yeah, various different activity. My math and science were very good. I would correct my teachers from time to time. That's when I learned what's the greatest about America. My teachers showed me sincerity and honesty. I received several scholarships to universities. I was born with a learning disability called dyslexia. I did not know what that thing was because in China there's no such a diagnosis awareness when I grew up. I knew I always struggled with reading, memorization, so taking the test is extremely difficult for me. I always struggle with that. And even in the United States, I self-diagnosed myself in medical school. I matched all the diagnosis, all the diagnostic criteria, so I had dyslexia. I was not struggle with my study. I was made fun of when I grew up, but I think that's, in a way, it's also a blessing because that forces you to study harder, to force you to learn, force you to be creative. After placing first in a college entrance exam, I earned a full ride to Boston University. I forewent the offer to BU to attend MIT. There, I volunteered as a translator for a free healthcare clinic in Chinatown. It was my first exposure to medicine. I was among extremely intelligent, kind, selfless people who organized the clinic to provide free medicine for the poor and the illegal immigrants. There is no discrimination there, only love, passion, and help. I knew immediately then I want to be this type of person. I came to Tyler in 2009 to be part of Trinity Mother Frances. I'm passionate about teaching my technicians and nurses in GI endoscopy field. I enjoy sharing my philosophy of learning. I enjoy having trainees shadowing me. I often ask my students, why are you here? Why do you want to shadow me? Why do you want to be a doctor? What is the meaning of life? What is happiness? These are fundamental philosophical questions everyone should ask themselves if they want to be happy and successful in life. Because in life, clarity is power. That means I believe we all have a nuclear power engine in our mind with unlimited potential. Many do not know such engine exists within them. Others never find the key to open it. The key to open it is to truly find the meaning of life. I believe learning, improvement, contribution, and love will give you the true happiness, not pleasure, but true happiness. The book called Art of War by Sun Tzu, the famous Chinese philosopher, general 2,500 years ago, changed my life. I apply its military philosophies and strategy to my study and my life. I learned to be prepared. Know yourself, know your enemy, then you can ask very intelligent questions. You should do your homework as quick as possible after the class, when your memory is still fresh, as if you're going to a battlefield, to test yourself whether you understand or not. You need to be proactive, be prepared, be proactive, not to be passive. People who do not want to preview things tend to fail. The meaning of life, I believe, is discovered through unconditional love. Loving other people, loving patients, meaning helping them with their medicines, holding their hands when they're in pain, and giving hope when they're in despair. In a life of learning, improving, and loving other people, whatever you do becomes interesting and works well. You find a way to overcome their hardship. When I saw how people become happy, how much difference I was making. That really made me feel satisfied. Every day, I try to learn new things from my patients, from people around me, and also from medical journals, even from my children. They're forcing me to be a better person every day. I learn from hobbies such as golf and ballroom dancing. My great hope is that I can help more people in their career and their personal life, whether students, patients, physicians, in China or here in Tyler. My name's Feng Li. Thank you.
Hi everybody, Jane Neal here from the Tyler Loop. We're in the middle of a phenomenal show that perfectly reflects the Tyler Loop's mission to help develop shared understanding in our diverse and growing city. You can help us expand that mission by becoming a monthly member. Simply click on the Support Our Work tab on our webpage and choose the amount you wish to contribute every month to show how you value local, nonprofit journalism and storytelling like no other in Tyler and East Texas. Our region matters and we're here to help you engage with it. Now let's get back to the show.
From an early age, I've had a knack for finding beauty in what others toss out. I also have a creative and people-oriented bent that helps me connect with others. Creativity is really just problem solving, and I, Callum Finney, have had ample opportunity to become a problem solver. I grew up in an upper middle class neighborhood in the suburbs of Minneapolis, Minnesota. That was the world I knew and where I began my creative ventures. I can remember going to school in the morning and saying to myself, I'm gonna be a shy girl today. And I thought the shy girls were the cool girls because they didn't need to, just vomit themselves all over everybody and have interaction with everybody. But I was so excited to know about everybody and for everybody to know about me and I'd meet somebody and I want to be best friends with them right on the spot. I was an only child for many years. Yeah. And both of my parents worked full time. So that meant I was home by myself a lot too. And when none of the neighbors were available to play or hang out, I would just get out the phone book and call up random numbers and then ask for a fake name. And, is Nancy there? You have the wrong number. There's nobody by that name here. Okay, well, what's your name? My name's Callie. And after a while, I had some regulars and who would occasionally take my calls or sometimes, it's Callie again. I had a rocky relationship with my parents. By age 12, I began running away from home. I would hide out at friends' houses and eventually I landed at a shelter for runaway youth. By age 15, I was living in a group home for troubled teens. At age 16, after returning back home, I continued to fight against the life my parents prescribed for me. I was then asked to leave and not return. I had nowhere to go. I ended up on the inner streets of Minneapolis. My creativity or problem-solving ability was challenged in a whole new way. My eyes began seeing things differently. I looked for anything that could be a resource. Overflowing trash in the alleyways, what might be in there that I could use? I was always on the lookout, especially for the discarded pizzas left in the dumpster behind Rocky Rococo's. They left pizzas still in the box and sometimes warm. In time, I got off the street, though not unscathed. During that time, it felt like I lived a million lives. By age 17, I was pregnant. I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl and I placed her for adoption. And by age 21, I had gone through another pregnancy. I had an infant son and was living in low-income housing in an unfurnished apartment. My baby and I arrived there with 4 items: a twin bed, a folding chair, a radio, and a coffee table with 3 legs. I began dumpster diving at the apartment complex. Over the next few weeks, I found artwork, boards and cinder blocks to use for shelves, and frying pans to use for both cooking and ironing clothes. I was struggling. I was really poor. Yet, this was one of the most joyful and vibrant times of my life. I had a newfound Christian faith and a small church family who took me under their wing. They surrounded my son and me with the love of God, and I bloomed. I began to work as a hairdresser and was able to fully support myself and my son. My life became centered around following Jesus, so much so that after 4 years, I had sold everything that I had accumulated and became a missionary. We moved to Lindale, Texas, and joined Youth with a Mission, a Christian nonprofit. It was there that I met and married a great man who worked alongside me. During that time, I also started a photography business on the side to help supplement our income as missionaries. After 12 years, we moved from Lindale to Tyler. I opened a photography studio in downtown Tyler in 2015. My desire to affirm the value in people that already exists and to demonstrate the love of God has been a driving force in all I do. Being downtown has given me the opportunity to walk this out daily with the people I meet on the street and those who walk into my door for various reasons. The opportunities to do what I love most kept finding me. Just as I had developed eyes to see what others had thrown out, I have eyes to see people who seem invisible to others, even to themselves. When I was in their position, there were many times I wished somebody would just stop and ask if I was okay. I didn't always know where to find housing and help, and eventually I figured it out, but human concern was what I needed most. I remember the time I spent my only dollar to stretch a cup of coffee at the 24-hour cafe. It was too cold to sleep outside. I kept nodding off at the table and I was asked to leave. No sleeping allowed. When the night cook got off his shift, he offered to take me back to his house. I had to consider whether or not I was willing to pay the price. To my surprise, he made up a bed for me and said goodnight and left me alone. Or the time when 6 bags of groceries were left on my apartment doorstep anonymously. Wow. So in February of 2021, when a sub-freezing winter storm threatened the state of Texas, I knew what to do. In the past, I posted community needs on Facebook and had a sprinkle of responses. This time was different. I reminded people about the freezing weather and those who are experiencing homelessness in our city. I asked for those who would be willing to give money to help get people off the street during this dangerously cold week. So many people responded. Miracles happened. Over that week, we were able to shelter 177 people. We filled every room in the Super 8 and other various rooms in hotels around Tyler. It was a sleepless week for me. And it wasn't just the adrenaline that came with running the show 24 hours a day and meeting the needs of all these people that kept me going. It was dozens of people in the community working together to deliver meals, to provide counseling, on-site medical care, cleaning, and offering prayers to those that wanted it. At the end of the week, when people checked out of the hotel, I was given gift after gift. I was given a necklace taken off of the giver's neck, food, a blanket, a piece of glass art that was broken, a pair of old shoes, a handmade poster. I took everything that was offered to me and I held it dearly. They didn't just want to take, they wanted to give too, and they did all week long. They shoveled, they helped clean, they helped serve food, and they shared with one another what little they had. It was a community effort on all sides. Because of the winter storm, people received proper medical care, counseling, and a whole lot of love. A few did not have to go back to the streets. They were placed in nursing homes, permanent housing with new jobs, and recovery programs. Important relationships were built, and a new nonprofit, Tyler's Street Team, has emerged to go to the unsheltered and meet them where they are, to connect them to existing local resources and wonderful programs here that provide medical care and housing, food, clothing, counseling, employment, and more. Currently we have maybe, I'm gonna guess around 15, 16 tents under the bridge. Some of those contain one person and a few are couples. Dee is in her late 60s. She battles mental illness and Tourette syndrome. She was raised in an orphanage. It was a really bad experience for her, especially having Tourette syndrome growing up and the ridicule that she endured, that it gave her so much anxiety that she will not go into the Salvation Army or into any shelter. She needs to be away. So when we first gave her a tent, she wanted to be as far away from others as possible. And they've taken turns making sure that when people come with food that she gets some. Oh, I forgot to mention the part about that she is legally blind. And so sometimes at night she'll get lost going to the porta potty, and if people see, they'll help her. In addition to visiting people under the bridge, there are people in the woods that we visit as well. There's a couple in the woods. They were actually able to get their stimulus, and with their stimulus money they purchased a yurt. And so they've been able to stay dry and haven't had as many problems with flooding. They've been married for 31 years. I have a friend named Stanley. He comes to visit me quite often. And one day we spent the day together and I played a song for him. It's a song, perhaps my favorite song in the world, by a local Chicago artist named Daphne Willis. And the song is titled Somebody Someone. And it goes through talking about the person on the corner and how somebody driving by might see them, but that there's somebody's mother, somebody's son, somebody's mother or father, somebody, someone. And I played that song for Stanley. And he would come in and ask me to play it again, and he'd just sit there. We'd just sit there quietly together and listen to that song. And one day he said, I miss putting my head on my mom's lap and she would run her fingers through my hair. That's all I have to say about that. The hope is that as we reach out, residents who are experiencing homelessness and volunteers alike will have opportunities to build trusting relationships with one another, that they will see each other as human to human, and that they'll find themselves better for being in each other's lives. I want to see more of us Tylerites taking the risk, stepping out in compassion. Love is risky. There is nothing better than being both known and loved. That is the Tyler that I can be proud to be a part of.
Were there any other stories meaningful to you in this lineup?
Casey's story hit me the most deeply. The dedication of his mother and thinking about how brave he was to go on that Boy Scout trip, right? That he didn't back down. He trusted his mom and he went. I felt like I gained a little piece of his mother's heart
Yeah, I want to be friends with her.
I really was impressed and touched by Casey's story. His story was so impressive and really echoed my own experience. He also found that this actually was a blessing for him. He found a way to overcome the struggles. He found a way to use this curse as a blessing.
Chauncey Williams, which is crazy because my last name is Williams. I went to his art showing in Panola College in 2017, and it was incredible. So yeah, it was cool that I had been there at the same space as him and shared that experience with him.
I really love Colin's story about how she had to sell everything in her apartment. I think she only had 4 things, and she sold it all. And then I admire that now she's actually helping the homeless people here in our community.
I would have to say Miss Celia. For one reason that I've had her children as an educator at Winona. I can recall one of her older daughters going through this while she was in my class. The breakdowns, just hearing the whispers of what was going on. The perseverance in going through something like that, of that magnitude, is just mind-blowing. You know, she almost made me cry.